Mike Matchett with Small World Big Data, and we are here talking with StorONE. I have the illustrious George Crump with us today to explain what's going on at StorONE. It turns out that backup is all the rage still, and they've got some new solutions to help you protect your data from things like ransomware and other bad actors and bit rot and all sorts of things. So let's find out why a cutting edge software defined higher performance storage system is getting into the backup space. Curious, right? Hi, George. Welcome.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
All right, so you heard my question there. StorONE, you've got a lot of cool things into StorONE. You've got a lot of use cases you cover, a lot of places where you can be applied as a software-defined solution, save people lots of money, consolidate lots of different kinds of storage. Why get into the backup space? What's going on there?
Well, Mike, what we've learned is we kind of went through this consolidation journey with customers, right?
Mhm.
Is their estate now is probably more fragmented from a number of vendors than it's ever been, and so the more fragmented it becomes, the harder it is to consolidate. And what we have always done is said let's wedge our way into one particular use case where the system's coming off of maintenance, or there's a lot of pain there, or something like that. Well, and we had different ones, VMware, NAS, things like that. But the one that kept coming up most often was backup, which we were curious about as well. And so we started to look into it. And we saw that there was some specific things that we do in that space that are unique to other vendors. And we could actually, other than just lower costs, we could also add a lot of value to some of the capabilities that you see in modern backup software applications today.
All right, and because this is software defined storage, really you can add in whatever features you'd like. This isn't a limitation anymore of having a specific array or a specific engineered infrastructure. So be agile that way. Something like that. Okay, but does this take the place of someone's backup software then? Are you replacing the Veeams and the rubrics and stuff, or
Actually, what we're complementing them, actually. So what we're hoping to do is actually, they've all brought great features to market, like the
Mhm.
ability to do instant recoveries. They've done some nice things around ransomware. They've done some great stuff around long-term data retention. And what we're trying to do is enhance all that. What we see repeatedly is that legacy storage hardware, because it also has legacy storage software, doesn't have the capabilities or power to really fully exploit some of the features that those guys are bringing to market.
all right, so if I'm invested in, Commvault or whatever else, and it's got some of these cool new features, and I go and try to use it with my old storage target, my old backup storage, it's going to still just run like a dog, or maybe not work at all for that suitability
Yeah,
case.
so like a great example is you take like the instant recovery or live
Mhm.
mount, whatever the vendor will call it, the ability to essentially instantiate a VM's data or an application's data on the backup appliance. Well, if your backup appliance is hard drive based, doing deduplication, doing compression, probably doesn't have great network access, that's not going to be a good experience for anybody, especially if you consider that most production storage today more than likely is either all flash or at least hybrid flash assisted. So the night and day difference in performance is going to be too dramatic, and your users are just going to complain. And so what we've done is made it so that experience is identical to the production experience.
All right, so you're taking production quality storage and you're converging it with the backup storage target
Mhm.
functionality. What did you have to add? What did you have to bring to the product in order to handle the backup case?
So we took our enterprise storage platform and we did some very specific optimizations to make sure that we're able to really add value to that space. Number one, we have a backup optimized flash tier. So we always have a tier of flash in these backup solutions. It can be different sizes depending on the customer use case, but that tier serves two purposes. Number one, to handle many simultaneous ingest jobs. So you can do backups as frequently as your application will allow you to now, and we won't become the bottleneck. And then number two, when you start getting into things like block level incrementals and things like that, you run into a consolidation problem where you're trying to merge these things to create another new full. And so we do that very fast. And then the most important thing, as I mentioned before, is this instant recovery. So a lot of capabilities here. The other thing we did is we enhanced our snapshot software to provide, essentially real-time immutability of inbound backup jobs, so that in case of a ransomware attack, you can't change the backup data, right? It can't get to the backup data to alter it. And essentially, you're always 30 seconds out of step. So if a ransomware hits, you can roll back to 30 seconds before the ransomware attacked and be back to where you were.
All right, there's a couple of things to unpack there.
Mhm.
You're creating immutable storage out
Mhm.
of you by using the software that you have
Mhm.
in some clever ways. So once that snap or the backup is taken, turned into an internal snap or however you're doing it, it can't be changed. It's a function of the system where the
That's
software stays
correct.
there,
Yeah.
right? So we get that immutability. You are converging primary and secondary storage in some clever ways here, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, obviously, you've had to add features to become backup storage, which I don't think
Right.
most people would think the other way. I'd have to add features to become primary storage, but you
Right.
actually it's kind of clever thinking there. And part of that is instant recovery. So just unpack that a little bit more for me. What are you talking about
Sure.
when you say instant recovery uh, on the backup storage?
Yeah. So what most of the software applications can do today is they can essentially, I used to call it recover in place. So the ability to restore on the backup appliance, which saves you having to traverse back across the wire, right? And so but the problem is, again, you're restoring typically to not only hard drives, but hard drives with anchors on them because they're usually running dedupe and compression and things like that. In our world, we have it set so instant recoveries always occur to our flash tier. Now, our flash tier is, I call it small but mighty, right? But it is a tier of storage. It's usually somewhere between 4 to 8 to 12 drives. And we get full performance out of the drive. So we'll deliver hundreds of thousands of IOPS just out of those few drives. And so when you restore, you're restoring to essentially high performance, very high performance storage, but it's also very, very affordable because we got to stay in that backup price band, right? And so then once that happens, you point your application at that data and you're running at full speed.
All right. So you can recover from your backup storage target into your performance storage because it's the
Mhm.
same storage
Yeah.
and be off and running. And I understand that you've had some folks do that and find that they get better performance on the store one than they get on their original primary storage, right?
Yeah, we've had that happen a number of times where you'll do a recovery and great real quick story. I had a guy, a CIO, he did this and um, he was a little nervous about it. And the application owner came in, said, "What did you do to my VM?" And he said, I was thinking of a great excuse to tell him. And before I could come up with anything, the guy said, "I don't care what it was, whatever you did, just keep doing it. It's never performed so well." Right. Well, what he did is an instant recovery to us, and that's what happened. So yeah, we see it a lot.
All right, all right. So there's definitely a challenge out there to folks to say, "Hey, try recovering,"
Yeah.
and are you getting better performance than you started with? You're doing a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
You've also you make this case about TCO with S1 and how you can really reduce the overall costs, especially in capacity. And part of that argument is you can make use of the latest and greatest disks, whatever the manufacturers out there are making. Both the flash sizes or densities are going up, and the hard drive is going up.
Mhm.
But doesn't that introduce some vulnerabilities to start being used these bigger and bigger disks with these single points of failure as you grow the systems?
Well, it certainly brings up concern because most people have been through a RAID rebuild with
Yeah.
even 8 terabyte drives, and it has not been a good day for them, right? Or days.
Mhm.
And so with our technology, we have a technology called VRAID that's included in S1 backup. And what it does is it delivers the highest RAID rebuilds in the industry. And so and you can go to our website and you can see a rebuild in real time. We actually sped it up because we didn't think people would actually stare at the whole thing. But we can do a complete rebuild of these high density drives, 14, 16, 18, even 20 terabyte drives in less than 2 hours,
Oh,
right?
okay. So someone can really take advantage of these high density
Yes.
drives, especially in the capacity case for backup.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we
Okay.
talk to customers about using 18 or the now coming 20 terabyte drives, there's always this kind of freeze because they've had this previous bad experience, almost like PSD, right? Where it's like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. And then once we explain to them how the technology works, then they can understand. And so it's easy to say I support 18 terabyte drives. It's a different thing to make them practical. And what we've done is make them practical. The other thing we do with those drives and all of our drives is we can run at 90% capacity utilization without performance impact. And so you can fill them, it's nice to have 20 terabytes, but if you can only put 10 terabytes on it, not so much. And so we can fill it all the way up to the top.
All right. I know we previously had you on and we talked about the performance of StorONE. I'd encourage people to go back and look at that because you're not losing anything here. You're only gaining
Right.
backup features. Have we covered everything, George? Here, is there something else you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've hit all the buttons.
Okay. If someone wants to try this out or find out more information about it, what would you have them go look at?
Yeah, the simplest thing to do is go to storeone.com/backup, and you'll have a complete rundown of everything. There's a white paper there, all kinds of different assets you can download as well.
All right, folks, it's software defined. You've got a great TCO here. You can take advantage of the latest and greatest disks. You can even put it on your own infrastructure if you want. I understand. And take a look at this. It's incredibly, increasingly interesting to see how you converge storage use cases, George.
Thank you.
And you're going to go eventually, I think, from the high to the low here in one product, which is going to be a fascinating journey for a lot of folks. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Uh, uh, Check it out, folks, at StorONE. Take care.